You know, for years, we've blamed the algorithm, the ad creative, even the budget when our campaigns fail. But the real reason is, well, it's a lot more fundamental. It's a hidden flaw that works beneath the surface, quietly sabotaging everything before a single person even gets a chance to click. This is the story of message market fit, and it's the real hidden key to making your ads profitable.
This quote right here, it just nails the problem. We're all so focused on the things we can see, the ad spend, the visual design, but the real point of failure is totally invisible. It's this fundamental disconnect that happens in a fraction of a second, a silent nope in the user's mind. And here's the kicker. This is the single biggest source of wasted ad spend because you can't even track it. It doesn't show up in your analytics. It's just nothing. A missed connection that flies completely under the radar.
So, the big question is, what is this hidden flaw really? And more importantly, how do we fix it so our ads actually connect with people? Look, this isn't about finding some new tactic or hack, it's about a complete strategy shift. It's about changing the way we think about our message from the ground up. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how to spot this misalignment in your own campaigns, and, even better, how to fix it for good.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to define the invisible flaw, so we know exactly what we're up against. Then, we'll talk about the CAC crisis, basically the economic pressure cooker that made all of this a must-know. After that, we'll pop the hood on the alignment engine to see how it works. Then we'll dive into the psychology of the brain's instant filter. From there, it's all practical, with a framework for mastery, and we'll wrap it all up with the logic of empathy, which is really the heart of this whole thing.
Okay, let's kick things off with section 1, the invisible flaw. For way too long, when an ad doesn't work, we ask two questions. Did we spend enough, or was the picture wrong? But honestly, that's just a distraction. The real problem is structural, and it's there before anyone even lays eyes on your ad. We have to start looking beyond these surface-level excuses.
And this right here is the great paradox of advertising. Imagine you've built a brilliant product. Let's say it's a revolutionary new project management tool. You know it's amazing. You know it's better than anything else out there. So you run an ad that says, the best tool for team collaboration. But here's the thing. Your audience's biggest, most urgent pain isn't a lack of collaboration. Their pain is, I am drowning in notifications and I can't focus for 5 minutes straight. Your product is great, but the message is completely misaligned. And that disconnect, it triggers an immediate, subconscious rejection. The color of your button doesn't matter at that point.
And that brings us to the formal definition, message market fit, or MMF. Think of it as the perfect alignment between what your audience is desperately struggling with and what your ad says it can solve. It's kind of like a radio frequency. Your audience is tuned into one very specific station, W Pain FM. If your ad is broadcasting on W Features FM, you're just static, you're noise. But when you tune your message to their exact frequency, you become a crystal clear signal they just can't ignore.
So if MMF is so important, why haven't we been talking about it forever? Well, for a long time, marketers could kind of get away with being a little sloppy. This next section, the CAC crisis, explains exactly why that era is dead and gone. We're going to see how the market itself turned message market fit from a nice-to-have into a matter of pure survival.
Now this chart, this tells the whole story. Back in the early days of digital ads, getting a customer's attention was cheap. The cost to acquire a customer, your CAC, was so low you could just spray and pray. Throw a generic ad out to 1 million people and a few would convert. But as you can see, those days are over. Competition is fierce, the platforms are saturated, and CAC is just skyrocketed. That old, inefficient method, it's now financially crippling. There's just no room for error anymore.
This crazy economic pressure forced a huge strategic shift. We had to realize that an ad's first job isn't to sell, it's to filter. Most of us have heard of product market fit, right? Having a product people actually want? Well, think of message market fit as the essential layer right on top of that. It's not enough to have the right product, you need the right message to attract the right part of the market. MMF acts like a pre-qualification filter. It makes sure only the people who are most likely to buy actually click, which saves you a ton of money on wasted, uninterested traffic.
And here's the direct impact. When you nail message market fit, the ad platforms actually reward you for it. Why? Simple. Their whole business model is built on user experience. An ad that's super relevant is a good user experience. So what happens? They give you a higher ad relevance score. The algorithm then shows your ad more often and to cheaper audiences. Your click-through rate goes up and boom, your acquisition cost goes down.
It's not magic, it's the system literally rewarding you for respecting the user's attention.
Okay, so that brings us to section 3, the alignment engine. We've got the why down, costs are through the roof, and we need to be efficient. Now let's get into the how. How do we actually build this alignment step by step? This isn't about guesswork or waiting for a stroke of creative genius. It's a repeatable, almost mechanical process. So let's pop the hood on this system.
The engine runs on 3 core parts, and you have to do them in this exact order. First, you identify the market's pain using real customer data, not your own best guesses. Second, you define your solution not as a big list of features, but as the single, specific thing that solves that exact pain. And finally, you run the alignment test, making sure your solution is a perfect puzzle piece fit for that pain. If you get any one of these steps wrong, the whole engine just sputters and dies.
Step 1, pain identification, is the absolute bedrock of this whole thing, and it's where most campaigns fail before they even start. It's not about us sitting in a room brainstorming what we think our customer's problem is. It's about listening. It's about digging into voice of customer data, or VOC. That means you're reading online reviews, you're lurking in forums, you're analyzing support tickets. You might think their problem is inefficient workflow, but in the VOC data, you find they say things like, "I feel like I'm constantly switching between a dozen tabs and losing my train of thought." That specific emotional language, that's pure gold. That's how you define the market side of the equation.
And this is exactly what happens during that final alignment test. Misalignment triggers what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It's that mental friction you feel when something just doesn't add up. The user's inner reality, their pain, clashes with what your ad is claiming. And the brain's instant reaction is to get rid of that friction by just rejecting your ad. They scroll right past. But with perfect alignment, your ad generates a powerful, relevant signal. There's no conflict. The user feels seen, they feel understood, they think, wow, it's like this was written just for me. And that feeling is what gets you the click.
So that's the perfect lead-in to section 4, the brain's instant filter. We've seen the mechanics of how the alignment engine works, but now we need to understand why it works on such a deep psychological level. Why is this so incredibly persuasive? Well, the answer is in our neuroscience. MMF isn't some marketing gimmick, it's a way to work with the brain's natural filtering system instead of constantly fighting against it.
See, MMA works because it taps into something called the Relevance Heuristic. Your brain has 2 operating systems. System 2 is slow and logical, like when you do a math problem. But System 1 is your autopilot. It's fast, it's instinctual, it's emotional. The Relevance Heuristic is a System 1 filter. The best way to think about it is like a bouncer at the club of your attention. And it asks every single piece of information one simple question. Are you relevant to me, my problems, or my goals right now? If the answer isn't an immediate, obvious yes, you're not getting in. End of story.
This slide shows the 2 responses perfectly. A vague, generic ad, the best tool for businesses, creates high cognitive load. Your brain has to actually work to figure out what that means for you. It's like being handed a complicated instruction manual. And our brains are wired to conserve energy, so they reject the effort and just keep scrolling. But an aligned ad, stop wasting time in pointless meetings, has high cognitive fluency. It's effortless to understand because it's literally mirroring a thought that person already has in their head. It feels like a conversation they're already having with themselves. It's easy, so it sails right past the filter.
And there's another powerful psychological trigger at play here: loss aversion. This is the Nobel Prize-winning idea that the pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining that same thing. A weak ad promises a gain, like get more productive, but a powerful, aligned ad frames the problem as an ongoing loss. It uses the customer's own language and says something like, stop losing 5 hours a week to pointless meetings. It doesn't promise to add something new. It promises to stop the pain they are feeling right now. And that creates a much stronger sense of urgency. Okay, the theory is solid. The psychology is fascinating, but how do we actually do this? That brings us to section 5, a framework for mastery. We're moving from the what and the why straight into the how-to. This is the practical, step-by-step playbook for putting message market fit into action. This quote really captures the entire strategic shift we need to make. For years, we've all been told to A/B test the picture, the button color, the layout, and sure, those are optimizations, but they're low leverage. They might get you a 5% bump. The real high-leverage optimization comes from testing the pain. Are your customers more motivated by the fear of wasting time or by the frustration of being disorganized? Testing different ways of articulating that core pain, that's where you see the massive 50%, 100%, even 200% improvements. It is the single most important thing you can test.
So here it is, the 3-step framework. 1. Externalize the pain. That means you are systematically harvesting that voice of customer data to get the pain out of your customer's head and onto a spreadsheet. 2. Define your unique mechanism. This is your only way statement. It is not a list of features, it's the one singular reason your solution is different. For a coffee brand, it might be the only coffee that's air roasted to eliminate bitterness. And 3. Test the pain articulations. This is crucial. Use your VOC research to write 3 to 5 different headlines, each one hitting the pain from a slightly different emotional angle, and then test them against each other relentlessly.
And all of that brings us to our final section, which is really the heart of this entire idea, the logic of empathy. Because when you strip away all the acronyms and the frameworks, message market fit isn't just a marketing tactic. It's a business philosophy, and it's rooted in a very simple, very human concept.
If you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Chasing algorithm changes and short-term hacks is a losing game. Real, profitable, sustainable growth is built on a foundation of deep psychological alignment. The reason this whole system works so well is because it's where the cold logic of neuroscience meets the deep human need for empathy. It uses the brain's own rules to satisfy the heart's desire to simply be understood.
This quote reframes the entire goal of what we do. We're so used to this idea of a funnel, of pushing people through a process. But that's a forceful, company-first way of looking at it. The best marketing doesn't push at all. It creates a magnetic pull. It draws the right people toward the value you created just for them. And it all starts by offering them something even more valuable than your product. And this is why. It all works because your message, in a single moment, instantly proves that you understand their suffering. Before you ever ask for their money, before you ask for a single second of their time, you give them the gift of validation. You show them you've done the work to truly understand their struggle. And in the noisy world we live in today, proving you understand is the first and most important step of any sale.